So using my fake baby, I'm going to transition the baby from our side pose over into our bum up pose, which is pose 3. When I do this with a real baby, I don't often have the ability to explain every single little detail that I'm looking for in this setup. So that's why demonstrating it with our fake baby is perfect for making sure that I can express and share everything so that you can get this pose nailed every time. Now it is important to understand that when you do put a baby into the bum up pose, that they're not all going to look the same. They're not all going to go into position exactly the same, because babies have their comfy spot just like us. You know, if you were to lay down on a bed or anywhere really for that matter, you're going to wriggle around and squirm until you find your comfy spot. Some people are more flexible than others, and some people like to arch their backs more or have a more rounded back. And babies are just the same. You know, their little bodies are all so different. So it's making sure that you read the signs that are coming from them and not push them too far to get, you know, that bum and head up really high. You've got to know their comfort spot by just listening to them and seeing how they respond to the different movements. So using our fake baby, she's going to be very well behaved for us. I'm going to explain how I transition them from here over onto their tummy without having to pick them up and put them down. When you're picking babies up and putting them down constantly, you're going to overstimulate them. They're not going to go into that deep sleep and stay asleep for you to be able to get the variety of images that you need for your clients. Also, this is also a great opportunity to change your backdrop. I'm not going to do it now, but if you were to change your backdrop, ultimately, you would just bring your hand up underneath the baby's head like this, nice and supportive, so you've got the hands in the head and then the other hand underneath the bottom and the legs here. Once I've got the baby's weight distributed evenly between my hands, I can simply just lift them an inch off the posing bag, and the new backdrop can be dragged down underneath the baby, and I get my parents to help me with that, or if you are working with an assistant, you can get them to help as well. So I'll put her back into position so we can see where we place our hands. Now, when I'm working with a wrap like this that's just tucked over the front, I don't want to just rip it off. I want to be able to still keep that warmth surrounding the baby. We've got our heater nice and close to the posing bag, not too close, so that it is creating that warm blanket of heat coming over to keep them nice and comfortable. But still, when you take the blanket off, the temperature directly on their skin will change and they may respond to that. So when I am getting them ready to turn onto their tummy, I'm just going to untuck it here at the front, keeping my hands on the thigh and the shoulder and just sort of pulling it back under my hand like that and keeping it tucked in behind their back to keep their back nice and warm. Also, when I am transitioning them over onto their tummy, we're bringing them forward. So we want to make sure the beans in the posing bag are nice and flat and we're not sort of, you know, rolling them uphill, so to speak. But we've created that flat surface for them to go over onto. We've got some supports underneath the baby's head. And I'm not going to pull them out all the way, but I am just going to adjust them slightly so that when we roll them, the baby's not going to roll onto them. So pushing that down. Now what I'm going to do is just making sure that this hand is nice and supported here. I'm going to bring the baby up so I can place my fingers on the forearm underneath the baby. When I've got my flat fingers there, nice and the palm of my hand is going to be just resting there on the baby's belly. I can pull this hand out and just have it on top there so that it's not going to get caught over when we roll the baby. The other hand is going to slide in down behind the baby's shoulder. So if you can see, if we bring the baby forward, the hand comes down in behind that shoulder. Okay, so I've got my fingers in position there, fingers behind that shoulder. Now I'm going to lift with my hand on the shoulder just gently to take the weight off the posing bag, and as I turn the baby with those fingers, I'm going to push that bottom forearm out so it comes out underneath the baby at the back there. Now we've taken the baby off those supports, we can take them out. Okay, so baby's obviously face down, fake baby. Her neck is not as flexible as a real baby. So we'll make her nice and comfy, and we've got that hand there. What I'm looking for when I come from this position is to bring that hand out the back. Because if I roll the baby over onto its tummy, the weight of the baby's body is going to be on this arm, and this is where this arm, is going to lose that blood flow, that circulation, and become quite uncomfortable. So bringing it out the back becomes nice and comfortable. They're in that position, which is very natural for their shoulders to be in, but having that arm there also stops them from rolling. It becomes a support arm, so that's really important. When you do turn their little backs, their little over onto their belly there like that, their legs will follow suit, and some will even draw their little legs up underneath them. Let's go ahead and remove the support from underneath the legs now. And what I'm aiming to do is bring my fingers up under both shins, nice and flat. So I'm going to grab this little leg here with my fingers under the shins, and this one here. And then I'm going to draw the knees up underneath the baby's belly. I like to make sure that the knees are shoulder width apart on both sides so that it creates that stability for the bottom half of the baby. Once their little legs are tucked up like that, I can go ahead and use one of my supports underneath. I'm not going to lift, but I am just going to tuck it around the back underneath that back leg. The cloth nappy is here, and just going to create that support at the back of the legs there. So now with this hand, I want to bring it underneath the baby's face. So again, pushing my finger through the palm of the hand to get that thumb out so it's nice and flat. I want to bring my fingers down the side of the baby's head here, just lifting gently and bringing that hand underneath the cheek. So that's the basic position. What I want to achieve is to have connection between the chin and the shoulder and the elbow and the knee, and that's going to create that beautiful curly connection in this pose. Because when you've got a gap here like this, you're going to create some sort of, holes in your image that become distracting. When you close those gaps, it becomes more about the baby and all their different little features as opposed to big holes like that. So again, with the fingers underneath the shins, I'm going to drag the bottom half of the baby around towards that elbow. Now, this baby is not a real baby, obviously you can tell that. She's not going to move the exact same way a real baby will, but you can very gently bring that knee and elbow around to meet and create that connection. And you can see now we've got chin and shoulder, elbow and knee, and you can see that little tushy coming around. What this does by bringing the bottom half around is create all those beautiful back rolls in newborn babies that are so cute. So once you've got them into that position, this is where you can use your cloth nappies to raise the head gently, or any other supports that you use, and then again with the bottom half of the baby. I tend to use little bonnets and pants when I'm doing this pose because I don't want any naked bottoms. In my images, or you can use fabric to wrap over the baby. It's entirely up to you how you want to style these setups. So I'm going to go ahead and move down here to the floor where I can sit a little more square onto my baby to get the position of the cloth nappies correct. So if I go ahead and lift the baby's head with my left hand, I can slide that support underneath the face. And then with the bottom half in position, I can go ahead and lift from the bottom as well to create that height. Okay, so because of the material that this baby's made out of, she's not going to hold this pose. But ultimately what I'm looking for is to raise her little head up a little bit, just like this, enough underneath all the blankets there, and also underneath the bottom a little bit, and to create that connection between the chin, the shoulder, and the knee and the elbow. And then you get that beautiful arch and that curly position. So now let's talk about our lighting and those camera angles that we're going to get from this pose. Okay, so what I'm looking for in terms of lighting is to have that light fall across the baby's face again from the eyebrow down. So you can see here the light is coming directly down the top of the baby's head again. So this is where I would just give my posing bag a little bit of a turn so that the light is now hitting more of the baby's face. And when you've got that head raised and supported there like that, you can see that the direction of that light now comes across the eyebrow from here and down again, as opposed to directly down the nose. So I'm looking for that angle all the time. So once we've got them in position, now I'm going to let go of her. She will move because obviously she's not a real baby and won't hold that pose. So imagining that she is our real baby, the camera angles that I'm looking for with this are going to be straight on from here. And again, I want to make sure that the baby is nice and square onto my camera, but the head is slightly closer to my lens. Because if I'm too far around this way, I'm going to make the bottom half of the baby appear much larger. Also, if you're not using little pants and wraps and things like that to cover the baby and they've got nothing on, if you come around too far, you're going to see too much. So coming slightly around towards the baby's head, keeping the baby pretty square on, but you do want that face to be nice and close to the camera. I'm going to compose my shot. And I'm still shooting at a focal length of 70% because I'm 70 mils because I want that beautiful fall off and depth of field, and I don't want to create any distortion. So zooming in 70 mil, and the baby is in the bottom half of my frame, and then the background above the baby is in the top half of my frame. So I'm going to focus on the eye that's closest to the camera, usually the top eye, because down here the bottom eye is so close to the hand and the blanket that it creates distraction, and sometimes our focal points can miss. So I'm going to focus on the top eye, which is nice and close to the camera, get that at 2.8 so it's beautiful and sharp, and then I have that fall off into the background. So that's my first angle, getting the entire baby with some space around it. Then I'm going to come in and get a close-up of the face. Another close-up, really close at 70 mil again, and then I'm going to stand up to get a completely different angle. The next camera angle that I'm looking for is directly above the baby coming down to get this side profile. It's going to be a very tight crop, so across the back of the shoulders and the baby's face right there. That's what I'm looking for. And you get these beautiful back rolls on a little baby, and you'll see the side of the nose and the lips as well. When I'm shooting above like that, I always want to make sure that I've got my camera strap around my neck too. So just bringing it up and then getting that composition nice and close at 70 mil. You can also start to use different angles as well, position the baby inside the frame, get as many different shots as you can, and then once you've got them on your computer, you can pick which angles you like the best. That's how I did it many years ago, with trying to come up with what works for me and what I find the most flattering for my babies. Also, in case the baby wakes up, you've got extra photos that you can kind of go back and use if you need to.